The sun blazed over the open-air music festival just outside Atlanta. The bass thumped through the ground like a heartbeat, and crowds of sweaty, happy people swayed and sang. In the middle of the chaos stood Kyron, calm and collected, behind a branded tent labeled Nicotine Pouches, smooth, smoke-free satisfaction. Kyron wasn't just another vendor. He stood tall, lean, and quiet, wearing shades and a calm smile, offering samples and answering questions. His black polo shirt bore the company logo on one side, and a small badge clipped to his belt read, FDA Certified Nicotine Representative. But beneath the surface of the legitimate sales operation, Kyron was something else. An undercover agent for a federal task force investigating the distribution of synthetic opioids disguised as nicotine products. His mission: monitor the event, track a suspected distributor, and remain invisible. That was until Officer William Hargrave showed up. Two officers approached the tent, pushing past the customers. The taller one, Officer James Carter, nodded respectfully. The shorter one, William, had ice in his eyes and a smirk that Kieran had seen before. In every courtroom where the color of his skin was a weapon used against him. "Hey," William barked. "You, step away from the table." Kieran stayed calm. "Is there a problem, officers?" James glanced at the signage in the crowd. "We've had reports of unlicensed substances being sold. Mind if we take a look?" Kieran gestured politely to the table. "Please, everything's legal, FDA approved. I've got permits and test results." James began reading a document Kyron handed him. William ignored it and grabbed a pouch, tearing it open. "These don't look like regular nicotine pouches," William said, narrowing his eyes. "That's because they're a new formula, tobacco-free, mint-based, fast-dissolving," Kyron replied evenly. William suddenly turned and barked into his radio. "Possible drug distribution at vendor booth 4. Request immediate backup." The crowd paused. Phones came out. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Sir, I must ask, what is your basis?" Kieran asked, still composed but aware of eyes now on him. "You think you're clever?" William growled. "Hiding drugs in pouches like that? Get on the ground, now." James raised a hand. "Whoa, William, we haven't tested anything yet." "I don't need a test. I've seen this kind of operation before," William snapped. "He's dealing." Kieran clenched his jaw but complied. "I'm complying under protest. This is all licensed, and I'm within my rights." Within minutes, Kieran's hands were cuffed behind his back. On-site tests showed no trace of narcotics, only pure nicotine. Legal, but William ignored it. "Tampered results," he muttered. "He's got backup somewhere. Let's bring him in." James hesitated, but ultimately let William take the lead. "I'll radio in the report, but this doesn't sit right with me." At the station, Kyron was led into a holding room while William claimed he needed to document the evidence. Kyron watched silently as William, under the guise of an officer, opened one of the nicotine tins and, believing no one could see him, slid a tiny bag of white powder into it. Kieran had seen enough. He sat quietly, gathering his thoughts, knowing his every move was being monitored. The mission had required secrecy. He was under strict orders. Never reveal his agency unless his life was at risk or the mission was compromised. It was compromised now. He waited another hour, letting the situation brew, as William strutted around like a conqueror. The arrest was logged, the pouch with the drug submitted into evidence. Then Kyron made his move. From his belt loop, Kyron detached a small black button. Standard issue for covert agents. He pressed and held it for 4 seconds. Silent transmission. 2 minutes later, chaos descended. 15 black SUVs pulled up like thunderclouds outside the precinct. Armed agents in tactical gear stormed the lobby with clinical precision. The badge of the Federal Narcotics and Enforcement Task Force gleamed on their shoulders. The air shifted. Inside, officers stared at the entrance, dumbfounded. James, just returning from patrol, stepped back as a tall man in a gray suit walked in. Chief Inspector Henry Brooks. "Where's Agent Kyron Walters?" he barked. The desk sergeant stammered, "He's in holding." Officer Hargrave arrested him, said he was selling drugs. "Get me Hargrave now." William emerged from the back hallway, smugness still lingering. "Chief, I was just doing my job. This man was—" "He's a federal agent, Hargrave. You just arrested a man working undercover on a joint task force." William's face dropped. He didn't show any ID. He wasn't supposed to. That's how undercover works." The team burst into the evidence room. Moments later, they returned with the tampered pouch, logging the contents, fingerprints, and camera footage. A junior agent whispered something to Brooks. The chief inspector's face hardened. He turned to William. "You placed that bag yourself. We've got footage, internal surveillance. You contaminated federal evidence and nearly sabotaged a 6-month investigation. You're done." You're suspended, effective immediately. Badge and gun, now." William's hands trembled as he handed them over. The room had fallen dead silent. James lowered his head, ashamed of what he'd allowed to happen. Kieran stepped out of the holding room as the cuffs were removed. His posture was upright, calm, professional. Brooks placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did well, Kyron. You kept your cool. You followed protocol." Kyron nodded but didn't smile. "I wasn't going to let one bad cop ruin this case." Suddenly, from outside, came cheers. The news had already hit social media. Black undercover agent wrongly arrested at music event. Police misconduct exposed. James stepped forward. "Kyron, I should have stopped him. I knew something was off. I didn't say enough." Kyron studied him. "You hesitated, but you're here now. That counts." Later that night, back at the agency headquarters, Kyron sat on the rooftop with Brooks. "You handled today like a professional," Brooks said. "But I know it stung." "It always stings," Kyron replied. "Every time someone sees my skin before they see my credentials. Every time I follow the rules and still end up on the floor, hands behind my back." "You want to take a break from the field?" Brooks offered. Kieran looked out over the city. The music from the festival was still faint in the distance. "No," he said, "because for every William, there's a James who needs to see what integrity looks like in action." Brooks smiled. "And that's why we need you." The two men sat quietly, the wind rustling around them. The next day, a video of the incident aired across national news. But it wasn't Kyron's arrest that went viral. It was the moment those black SUVs arrived, and the federal agents stood by their colleague, refusing to let the lie take root. People saw something powerful, not just the injustice, but the correction. Not just the mistake, but the accountability. A week later, Kyron returned to work. His tent was set up again, this time at a different event, this time with a crowd that recognized him. "Hey, you the guy from the video?" someone asked. Kieran smiled. "Yeah, that was me." A young kid walked up to him, holding a phone with the news clip paused on Kyron in cuffs, then later free, walking out proud. "My brother's thinking of becoming a cop. I showed him this. He said he wants to be like you, not like the other guy." Kieran's smile deepened. Tell your brother we need more like him.